Good morning, everybody. Today we shall talk about the soft skill entitled as the communication skills. What exactly is this communication? Parkinson and Rowe, in 1978, in their foreword to a book on communication, state that communication is what to say, when to say, whom to say, and how to say. This is the biased definition of communication that I have come across. We should know when we talk about communication what exactly to tell to the others, how to say them, and when to say them, with the proper toning that we'll have to maintain. If we have an idea about all this, then we are appropriate on the path of communication. TJ and Sander Larkin, in their book Communicating Change, 1994, say if communication changes behavior, it's good communication. If it doesn't, it's a bad communication. It must bring about the change. Max Boyst, a communication becomes meaningful when it modifies the expectations that shape the behavior, says is the proper communication. Heinz Goldman, the chair of the International Foundation for Executive Communications in Geneva, says that communication always is a dialogue and never a monologue. Unless and otherwise, you are a gifted poet talking to yourself and externalizing it for the benefit of the people. Otherwise, it is always a dialogue that goes on between two people. It's more concerned with the dual listening process. It is not only talking, but it is also listening. And so, in a conceptual model, a communication is always a two-way process in which two people transit and receive ideas, information, opinions, emotions that must be interpreted and related before the communication process is completed. And hence, in this communication model, we have an encoder or the sender who sends some piece of information which will be received by the receiver or the decoder through a message. The message travels through the environment. The message could be, as I'm right now talking to you, a direct, face to face, or it could be telephonic, or it could be through mails, or it could be through WhatsApp messages, or it could be through letters. Whatever it is, whatever the encoder or the sender feels is being sent using the appropriate a medium which would be received by the decoder, and he decodes whatever is communicated to him. It doesn't stop there. The process of communication model becomes complete only when the receiver gives a feedback to the sender. The feedback could be in the form of nodding of the head, blinking of the eyes, expression through your face, or telling, yes, I understand, and so on and so forth. So we complete this model only with the help of encoder, decoder, message sent through the environment, and the receiver giving back to the seeker or the sender in the form of a feedback. And so this process is complete only when we have sender encoding the message, choosing the appropriate channel, and through this channel the message is sent and it has been decoding and it is received by the receiver, and maybe in the environment if some noise is there, some disturbance is there, the message might get distorted or disturbed. For example, we are speaking on a telephone or a mobile and we have a poor network, the message is distorted. Supposing we are talking to each other in a classroom and a big marriage party is going on by the side of the college, yes, again we are disturbed. So environment plays a very, very important role. And the receiver will give a feedback to the sender, thereby telling that the communication process is complete. The further communication by the sender would be depending upon the feedback that he receives from the receiver. So communication flows in an organization, if you observe, it could be internal or diagonal communication. Communication that takes place between the manager and the employees of other work groups is what is called as diagonal communication, which could be internal and which could be external. Internal would mean, supposing in a family, if the communication is going on between the parents and the children, or if it is a college, the communication that is going on between the principal or teachers and the students, or vice versa. It is internal. It could become external the moment the students of one college are interacting with the students of other college. Or maybe the employees of one work group is interacting with the employees of the others, like the suppliers or the banks or the financial institutes, or maybe the customers, or so on and so forth. So communication flow in any organization or in general in a society takes place internal within the group of people that are concerned with that organization or institution, and external whereupon the communication could be between two organizations, or maybe the organization and the society, or vice versa, or the government and the institutions, and so on and so forth. At every walk of life, communication is important. And that's why we have the internal or the diagonal communication, which could be from top to bottom or bottom to top, and also the diagonal or the crosswise communication. It could be external as well. The external could be taking place in the form of telephonic conversations or meetings or presentations or conferences, through media broadcast, through business letters, through electronic mail, through advertisement, the leaflet or the brochure that a company comes out with, the press releases that it has. All these are different ways of communication that takes place between the organization or the institution and all its stakeholders, employing various medium of expression. Essentially, if you observe these communication, it could be of four different types. The very first type is what is called as the downward communication. Downward communication is always between the top till the down. Maybe your top management or apex management, or maybe the principal wants to communicate something to you as students, or the management wants to implement some of the rules on a particular institution and thereby had made a brochure or thereby had made a leaflet and had communicated it to you either through email or maybe through advertisement or maybe through a leaflet or a brochure, or the university has taken a decision and is communicating to its students regarding the examination processes. All these are what are called as a downward communication, which could be in the form of notices or circulars or written or orally issued instructions. It could also be through meetings, orders, memos, bulletins, newsletters, annual reports, or public announcements, or a press meet, or whatever. Similarly, these objectives of the downward communication could be to give some instructions to its stakeholders who are on the lower side, maybe to give some orders, maybe education and training that has been imparted in the institutions of education, the on the job training that the students undergo, the motivational speeches, the raising of the morale of the employees, the counseling of the students, the advice that is given to the students, persuasion, warning, appreciation in the form of bulletin boards, company periodicals, directives, emails, face to face communication, handbooks, and press releases. All these will form the downward communication. The second type of communication is called as the upward communication. The upward communication takes place from the down to top. It is exactly the opposite of the previous type of communication. If the downward communication takes place from the top level till the lower level, the upward communication takes place from the lower level, maybe the students to the management, maybe the students to the university authorities, maybe the students to the UGC, or maybe the government. This can be done with the help of suggestion boxes, phone calls, emails, meetings, memos, reports, grievances, complaints, and so on and so forth. Normally, this upward communication takes place in order to request something to the higher authorities, or sometimes it could be applications, maybe an appeal or a demand. Sometimes it could be a representation, complaint, or a suggestion to the apex body. This type of flow that you observe from the lower body to the higher body in the form of letters or suggestion boxes or maybe some complaints through email or WhatsApp is what is called as the upward communication. The third type of communication that could be possible is what is called as the horizontal communication. By horizontal communication, we mean that it is the movement of information as the lateral communication. Supposing the students of BA, BSc, BCom of our own college want to communicate to each other. maybe through their class representatives, maybe through the telephonic messages, maybe through the WhatsApp groups or email groups, then it becomes horizontal. Or not only the students of our college, maybe the students of our college want to communicate with the students of other colleges that are affiliated to our parent university. Even then, through the representatives, through the president and the vice president of the elected bodies of the students' union, you could find a communication taking place. Say all of us want to go on a strike. Obviously, there would be a communication among themselves and they go. So, peers of the same institution, or maybe the peers of different institutions, peers of the same office, or maybe the peers of different branches of the same office, or different offices of the same type, all these will have the horizontal type of communication. And this type of communication could be for the exchange of information, maybe some discussions and requests, maybe coordination in various activities, conflict resolution, sometimes a problem solving, maybe an advice that is given to somebody, social and emotional support to each other. Normally, this type of horizontal communication takes place in the union offices between the people working in the same organization or maybe of different organizations for the communication of various activities that are going on. The fourth type of communication is what is called as the grapevine communication. Grapevine communication allows communication flow on all different directions. The rest of the three have got a fixed flow of communication. The up to down or down to up, unidirectional. The third is horizontal, where it is parallel. Whereas the grapevine communication takes place in all directions. Access of all levels of an organization to all different people that are working in the organization is what is called as the grapevine communication. Maybe this also could be a sort of informal mode of sharing experiences. Sometimes it has some rumors as well, some truth as well. It could be rumors and truth, but nowadays, this is the most modern types of communication, which believes that this is the best type of communication to extract the truth from its employees and the stakeholders. The grapevine communication would be like a principal interacting with the students very casually in a canteen or in the gardens, or in the sports complex, or in the tennis court, and casually inquiring about whether the lectures are going on regular, what amount of portion is completed, are the students happy with the lectures, what exactly are their expectations from the institution, are they convinced and happy with it. A casual and a very informal type of talk whereupon the students or employees become more open and come out with their own responses are the result of getting the information related to various topics in a very truthful but in a very informal way. The most successful companies nowadays try to get the information through the grapevine communication, not strictly to upward or downward because they become very formal. Not even horizontal, but it is always a grapevine communication. Many a times, in order to get the exact information and have communication to 100% success, it would be all the four combined. Only then you could find only then you could find that the communication is 100% successful. Whatever it is, the communication skills will have the verbal as well as non-verbal type of communication skills. By verbal, we mean that we use language to communicate ourselves. So such verbal communication could be oral or could be written. And non-verbal communication is without using the language, the type of communication that we maintain is what is called as the non-verbal type of communication. Whether it is the appearance, a smile, a touch, the distance that we maintain, the eye contact that we maintain, and the tone of the language that we maintain, everything matters a lot when you are having a communication to the society. And hence, you could find that it is a perfect combination of verbal as well as non-verbal type of communication. Let's move about to the verbal type of communication. This communication could be using a language, and this could be either speaking or writing. Followed with speaking and writing, you always have the visual images that the language uses whenever you are writing. And with speaking, it's always the body language that is important. The oral type of communication is The ability to explain and present your ideas in clear and understandable language to the diverse audiences, which includes the ability to tailor delivery to a given audience using appropriate styles and approaches, and you have a total understanding of the importance of the use of language in the oral communication. The oral communication requires the skill of number one, presenting yourself, audience awareness, critical listening, body language, along with many other allied skills. The channels of oral communication could be face to face conversation, telephonic conversation, presentations, as you could find in meetings and conferences, public speeches, interview skills, group discussion, participation, negotiation skills, and conducting the meeting to put forward your own views and ideas about a particular topic. The advantages of oral communication is that it is very clear and transparent. There is no element of rigidity because face to face conversation takes place, and there is an element of flexibility for convincing others and getting convinced also. The feedback that you get through this communication is immediate and spontaneous. It is not only time saving, but it also saves money and efforts of the communicator. Oral communication can be used in order to transfer private as well as confidential information and matter. But the disadvantages of it is that relying only on the oral communication may not be sufficient. Not very easy to maintain a record of it, less authentic than the written communication. Every time there is a possibility of getting misunderstood. Long speeches consume a lot of time, and many a times it becomes unproductive. Oral communication, such as speeches, is frequently used as legal records, excepting in the investigation work, because it cannot be taken as an authentic record. And hence, in substitution to this or in correspondence to this, we have a second type of communication using the language called the written communication. Written communication is the ability to write effectively in a range of contexts and for a variety of different audiences and purposes. With the command of the language, such as academics, offices, companies, government and semi-government, as well as private organization, written communication has got its own importance over the spoken part. Because the channels of written communication could be through letters, through paragraphs and essays, through note taking and note making, maybe summarizing the things, memos, notices, circulars, agendas and minutes that we maintain in the meeting, and so on. The advantages of the written communication is that it helps in laying down apparent principles and policies and rules for running an organization effectively and efficiently. It is a permanent means of communication because maintaining the records will become easier. It's more precise and explicit. And for all the legal purposes, it is the written communication that helps us as proof when compared to the spoken part. The disadvantage of it is that there is much cost that is involved in the maintenance of the written records, in stationery and in manpower employed in writing and typing the delivering letters. The feedback that you get is not immediate. Effective written communication also requires great skills and competencies in language and vocabulary use because they are the permanent records that you maintain for many issues. Poor writing skills and quality have a negligent impact on the organization's reputation. Too much of paperwork it believes in and emails burden the stakeholders is involved in the written communication. Along with spoken and written communication skills, one also needs to develop the non-verbal communication skills. By non-verbal communication, it is the ability to enhance the expression of ideas and concepts without the use of coherent labels through the use of body language, gestures, facial expressions, and tone of voice, and also the use of pictures, icons, and symbols if it is a written communication. Symbolic communication and the exchange of messages change our prior expectations of the entire events. The non-verbal aspects of oral communication requires number one, the background communication such as audience awareness, personal presentation, and body language. The non-verbal aspects of written communication skills require good handwriting that you maintain on a piece of paper that you're writing, the margins that you're leaving, the font size that you're maintaining, the style and quality of paper that you're using, the color and letterhead that you're using. Maybe to explain your concept, the pictures, diagrams, graphs, charts, flow charts, and maps that you are using are very, very important in order to see that your communication is 100% effective and efficient. The non-verbal aspects of the spoken communication would mean the body language that you maintain, the appearance that you put up, clothing and the accessories that you are maintaining along with the communication, the postures and the gestures that you are maintaining, and the facial expression along with the eye contact that you maintain with your listener. Very interesting phenomena in non-verbal aspects of spoken communication is a genuine, beautiful smile. The paralanguage like the tone, volume, pitch, pronunciation, stress, intonation, speed, and silence that you are maintaining also are important when you talk about the non-verbal aspects of communication. The very first non-verbal communication is kinesics. Kinesics is it is the study of the facial expressions, postures, and gestures. Normally, without even using a single word, the way in which you get yourself connected with your hearer, audience, is what is called as kinesics. The dress that you wear, the body language that you maintain, the way in which you use your hands and legs, the way you stand are very important. Without using a single word, you can communicate and connect yourself to your audience 100% even before you start speaking. Did you ever realize it? In Argentina, to raise a fist in the air with the knuckles outwards would mean it is victory. But in Lebanon, if you do the same body language, it is considered to be very rude. Different countries and different societies use different kinesics to express yourself, and you should know what body language is to be maintained in different countries and situations in order to be successful and communicative. So you could find different, the very moment you look at the different faces that the picture maintains, you automatically can understand whether the speaker is comfortable, angry, depressed, wondered, awestruck, and so on and so forth. The moment you have different smileys that are being used, you obviously can make out whether the speaker is in a happy mood or sad or whatever he wants to express. Similarly, is the use of hands. The moment you say this, it is very good. The moment you say this, it is victory. The moment you say this, it is high five. The moment you say this, it is you. And you're getting connected with the youth. You could look at the picture where the man and the woman are sitting opposite to each other. With the body language itself, without the use of any word, we could make out that the speakers are in disagreement with each other. So it's very important to maintain a proper kinesics whenever you are communicating in public. The next interesting phenomena of non-verbal communication skills is oculesics. Oculesics is the study of the role of eye contact in the non-verbal communication. Do you know that in the first 90 seconds to 4 minutes, you decide that you are interested in someone or not? Studies reveal that 50% of this first few minutes that you stand in front of your audience, you get connected or disconnected. Actually, only 7% comes with words, and the rest of the percent is with the contact that you are maintaining, the connection that you are maintaining with your audience, and so on and so forth through a proper oculesics. Drama and literature are the wonderful things in which you could see. Maybe in literature through words, and maybe on drama on the stage, or maybe pictures on the screen. You could find oculesics being used effectively for a wonderful communication between the speaker and the hearer. Haptics is the next nonverbal communication skills that we need to maintain. Haptics is the study of touch. Do you know that acceptable level of touching vary from one culture to another? In Thailand, touching someone's head is considered to be very rude. But in India, touching the head would mean that you are giving an ashirwad to the youth or the youngsters. In Saudi, haptics is considered very rude, but in America, shaking hands and giving a hug is very common way of interacting with your audience. So you should know what haptics is to be maintained because the moment, even if you shake hand with your employee or your stakeholder, the way in which you shake your hand, non-sweaty, not too cold and not too hot, and a wonderful confident handshake definitely expresses your confidence in communicating yourself. Proxemics is the next nonverbal communication skills that you need to understand. Proxemics is the study of measurable distance that you maintain between different people as you interact. Do you know that the amount of personal space when having an informal conversation should vary between a few inches to 4 feet, while if it is a formal communication, it could be 10 to 12 feet also. If you are between a few inches to 1.5 feet, it could be intimate. If it is 1.5 to 3 feet, it could be personal. It could, if it is 4 to 12 feet distance that you maintain, it is social. And if it is more than 12 feet distance that you are maintaining, you are speaking in a public place. So proxemics plays a very, very important role in having an effective communication. Chromics. Chronomics is the study of use of time. It is the time management that we are going to learn under the section of time management and skills. But have you ever observed that while an employee will not worry about running a few minutes late to meet a colleague, while to meet a manager, he would be well within time. If you want to meet your friend, you could be 5 minutes this side or that side of the decided time. But if you are giving an interview, you are expected to be there half an hour before the interview schedule is communicated to you. So, maintaining a time and one thing at a time, rigid approach to time with a strict agenda, focus on the task, completion of job within the time, and emphasis on promptness is very, very important to be successful in communication. Paralinguistics is the next nonverbal communication skills that we have to pick up. What do you mean by paralinguistics? It is a study of variation in pitch, speed, volume, and pauses to communicate your meaning effectively. Interestingly, when the speaker is nervous in his presentation, obviously he would be faster in delivering his ideas. And maybe he fumbles down. However, if you are too slow, communication will become ineffective. If you are too fast, you never get yourself connected with your audience. Looking into their eyes, maintaining the oculesics and paralinguistics is very essential parallelly in order to get yourself connected to your audience. A friendly and unfriendly tone of voice, what you say is not important. How you say is very important. You need not shout to communicate yourself, but you could be very slow, still very effective in communicating yourself. It is a skill by its own, and you can develop these skills slowly. Along with it, physical appearance is the way in which you look to your audience, also is important in communicating yourself effectively. Neatly combed hair, well pressed and ironed clothes, a beautiful smile always win you and connect you to your audience. It is the confidence that you could show on your face and in your body language that will make you either acceptable or unacceptable. With respect to the height, build, and age, you have no control over it. But with respect to your face, the way you look at, the accessories that you carry, the hairstyle that you maintain, the eyes and the clothing that you keep up, definitely pay you, whether you are winning it or whether you are not connected. Media and modes of communication can be conventional mode. A conventional mode will have the mail, courier, hand delivery, telegraph, and telex. The second could be the modern communication technology, as you could see with telephone, cell phones, SMS, voicemail, fax, email, teleconferencing, audio as well as video, and the use of websites to communicate yourself. And you could see in this COVID-19 situation that we have been using both the traditional as well as the modern communication technology to communicate ourselves to our audience. The strategy for effective communication could be by following the 7 C's. The 7 C's are: number one is courtesy. Courteous messages help to strengthen the business relationships as well as effective in communication. To be courteous, considerate, communicators should follow these suggestions, like using please, being more sincere, being more thoughtful, being more appreciative, grant and apologize good naturedly, omit the expressions that irritate, hurt, and belittle, and start using the words of please, sorry, thank you, I apologize, and so on and so forth, which would present the speaker in a very courteous way to his audience. The second C is clarity. Whenever you are communicating yourself, you should be very clear as to what you want to communicate. And always use short, familiar, and conversational words. Don't use flowery language in order to communicate yourself, whereupon, if the audience does not understand your language, they would never be connected. It is always through language. Body language is playing 70% of role, and maybe if it is 30% role with the language, still language only should be effective. Let the audience remember your language and the theme of what you have communicated rather than your body language. In order to do that, your communication should be very appropriate. It should be readable. It should be listenable. It should be understandable. Maybe by giving the examples, illustrations, and other visual aids whenever possible. The third C is conciseness. It should always be concise, and connectors like now, because, so, that's why, hence, all these conjuncts and conjunctions are to be used very effectively so that your communication will become more interesting and concise. The fourth C is concreteness. Wherever it is possible, use the audiovisual aids, either in written communication or in spoken communication. In written communication, using of graphs, using of pie charts, pie diagrams, using of flow diagrams and flow charts help you to communicate effectively. And in oral communication, your speech always supported by maybe something visual, like a PowerPoint presentation, like the uh, actual showing of the pictures, or maybe the material, the realia. All these will help you to become very concrete. Use specific facts and figures. Put action in your words. Choose vivid and image building words so that the students get connected or the audience get connected, and communication will be 100%. The fourth C is correctness. The use of language. This is where the language teachers have a role to play. The language is to be used so very appropriately, grammatically right, phonetically correct. I always give an example of a lover writing a love letter to his beloved, especially of your age students, your age youth, which is very common, which is quite acceptable. The lover writes only 2 lines in the love letter to his beloved. I like you. Very good. If a grammar teacher like me is there, he or she would immediately analyze the sentence as SVO. Right? The immediately next sentence would be an interrogative form of it. Are you like me? Oh, you're caught by the grammar teacher. I like you. The yes no type of transformation of this sentence is not are you like me, but the use of empty auxiliary verb like do is what is required. I like you. Do you like me? Should be the expression. Are you like me has got a different meaning. How can anybody be like anybody at all? And how can a boy be like a girl at all? So immediately with this ungrammatical sentence that has been used by the lover, he has to receive a slap from the beloved. So even to write a love letter, which is very small as 2 lines, you require correct use of language. Otherwise, your communication will be totally a flop. So learn language effectively. Be very attentive in your classes to pick up the right vocabulary, to pick up the right pronunciation. Your phonetic teacher, your teacher who teaches you the phonology, should help you out in picking up the right expressions. Have some interest in picking up the language effectively. When you know that you have to use the language, and the correct use of language is very essential to communicate your meaning effectively, pick up the language correctly. You cannot expect a speaker using Marathi or Hindi with a gender problem or a number problem or maybe your verbal confusion, the tense confusion, and so on and so forth. You have to pick up the language effectively, for which the teachers can help you, the mentors can help you to a certain extent, but self motivated interest to pick up the language very effectively and efficiently should be a must to become a good communicator. The next C is consideration. Whenever you are speaking to others, have a sort of consideration. Always focus on, others, you, rather than I and me. Let us use the word we. A sort of emphasis on the pleasant facts, the integrity and ethics that you apply, the togetherness that you show to your audience, the connection that you show with your, audience or the students is very important. And it is always a we rather than I that pays you a lot and connect you to your audience. And the next C is completeness. Whenever you are speaking, complete the sentence, either in written form or in the spoken form. Don't leave the sentence haphazardly, loose, hanging, leaving for the speculations of your audience. Complete the sentence effectively and have a genuine smile while you're stopping. All these seven are called as the seven C's. Not cod liver oil that gives you, you know, a good health, but the C's of communication that will make your communication very effective. So the communication goals can be number one, to persuade, number one, to get and give information, to change the behavior of others, to put somebody into action, to ensure 100% understanding by your audience. We need to improve the communication skills because 70% of your communication efforts are always misunderstood and misinterpreted, maybe sometimes rejected, distorted, and not heard at all. That is one of the reasons why we tend to look at people and many times we ourselves say, "Oh, that is not what I meant. This is not what I wanted to say. I'm sorry, you have misunderstood me. This is not what I wanted to communicate. You have totally lost me. It is totally misinterpreted." These sentences we often tend to give as clarification to our audience or to our listeners. In order to avoid this, we have to be effective in our communication skills, using appropriate word, using the right type of body language, and expressing ourselves 100% as to what exactly we want to communicate. Otherwise, we are bound to be misunderstood. We are bound to be misinterpreted. The common errors that you could find in the communication part is that finishing other sentences, even before the others are talking to us, stopping them in between and raising your voice to express your way. Never do that. Always listen to others. If you really want to become a good communicator, you should be a patient listener. First of all, listen to others. Then put your word in whatever way you want to say. Preparing our response even before someone has completed speaking is a very wrong way of being a good communicator. Whenever you are listening to others, listen with 100% giving into it. Don't do multitasking there. Don't pretend to be listening to others while thinking as to what or how you want to tell or emphasize your point. Be a genuine listener first. Then you could change your point of view accordingly. Filtering the content or meaning based upon the speaker. When you don't listen to the speaker effectively, when you talk, it becomes a monologue then. So it doesn't become a discussion, it always becomes an argument. A discussion is what is right. You listen to others, sometimes you accept them, sometimes others accept your point of view, and you come out of something different. Before you participated in the discussion, you had a different opinion about a particular topic, and after participating in the discussion, maybe all of you have changed and you have come out to a new conclusion. That is healthy. But argument is always, I am right. It cannot be I'm right always in a communication skill. Be very patient and listening. Don't speak for others. Let others speak for themselves, and then you add your point of view after listening to others. A good algorithm in communication is that a good understanding that communication is always a two-way process. So, first, listen to understand, then understand before speaking. Speak to be understood. Speak understanding before, you know, seek the understanding before you proceed to express yourself. And sometimes, if people are missing you, you identify that people are not getting you or you are not getting connected to others, repeat in a different expression so that your communication could be 100% effective. How can it be improved? Never, never, never be judgmental on others. Be with an open mind. Have a smile on your face to listen to others. Don't be closed, the closed hand, not to accept others. Be always open. Always shake hands and be open to accept others so that people can talk to you, people can communicate to you, people can connect to you. And after a proper understanding, whatever you say, you can connect with the people. How can you effectively improve your conversation? Number one is the good use of English. Yes. Even today, unfortunately, communication skills are associated with English language. In fact, as a language teacher, I would always say communication is with any language, even in your own mother tongue. Learn to use the language effectively. And if you are communicating in English, maybe in the formal level or maybe in the informal level, always try to see that you pick up the language effectively. Number one, the vocabulary that you pick up should be effective. Work for it, work on it by reading newspapers, by developing the reading skills, by developing the listening skills, by referring to dictionaries. Develop your vocabulary. Number two, avoid ungrammatical utterances. This can be avoided only by picking up the syntax of a language effectively. So pay a little more interest as a matured learner, as a motivated learner of the language, to see that you pick up the language without any grammatical problems. Then maybe develop the correct pronunciation. Give due emphasis to pronounce the words and the sounds of the language as effectively as a native speaker. If not like a native speaker in toto, at least the wrong pronunciations or the confusing pronunciations are not to be encouraged. Consciously practice in order to pick up the right pronunciation. Avoid the old and cliched expressions. Add humor and stories in your presentations so that your expressions could be more effective. Because you forget what is taught, maybe you never forget the stories and anecdotes that you listen to. And improve the clarity of your voice. Practice well to get yourself communicated better. You can have a number of barriers in the communication. The barriers could be with respect to linguistic. If you don't know the language itself, that could be a barrier. It could be social. Sometimes you're not able to understand the culture of others. That could be a barrier. Cultural barrier could be there. Gender differences could be a barrier. Race and culture could pose some barriers. Speech ability, language, articulation, maybe use of foreign language and foreign words could be a barrier to understand others. Maybe you're not maintaining good physical health, and that could be a barrier. You're not maintaining a good mental state. You're not in a mood to listen to, and that could be a barrier. Maybe you are in medication because of some ailment, and that could be a barrier to listen and understand. Sometimes it could be psychological, sometimes it could be physical, sometimes it could be social, sometimes it could be linguistic. I understand that these barriers are definitely there interfering into. Many a times they will not be associated with the speaker and the listener. Supposing you want to speak and communicate something and the listeners are listening to you, they want to listen to you, but still something that is going on in the society, a dog barking loudly, or a marriage band that is going on, or a great procession that is going on surrounding will never enable you to listen to anything properly. All these barriers are there. Sometimes the barriers might not be in your control, but whatever barriers are there in our control, like picking up of the language effectively, using the body language efficiently, developing the verbal and non-verbal communication skills efficiently, mastering the topic in which we are going to talk, all these at least are in our hands. Whatever are there in our hands, let us sharpen them and be very effective in our communication skills. Let me give you some tips. Use your voice more effectively when you are talking. Speak more confidently, having an appropriate tone, voice, and use your verbal skills effectively. The second is generate confidence through your body language. The eye contact that you maintain, the smile that you maintain on your face, the posture and the gestures that you maintain, the dressing style that you maintain, everything should correspond to the communication. Use the power of eye contact and be more in the control of your body language. Present yourself successfully. What does that mean? Presenting yourself successful would mean that a confident body language with a smile on your face, along with a well prepared presentation that you want to talk on whatever topic. The styles of communication, choose your respective style. It could be guarded, it could be direct, it could be open, it could be indirect, or it could be a combination of. Select your medium, select your style of communication, and be very confident in whatever you're communicating. Practice a lot before presenting yourself. The Bhimsen Joshi song would not become a wow till hundreds of hours of practice goes into it. A Charlie Chaplin film would not touch your heart and make you laugh and cry along with Charlie Chaplin until and unless hundreds of hours of practice goes into it. See that all successful speakers are not 100% success just in a fraction of a second. Hundreds of hours of patience, practice goes at the back of them. Learn it, identify it, and make it a part of your life. Select your style and be confident in expression. Learn the power of effective listening. It is always the listening that makes you a good speaker. Only after you listen to your audience, you understand what exactly they want. Supply whatever they want. And that's it. That is the secret of success of your communication. I hope that all of you would develop the language effectively, use the language efficiently, and become a wonderful communicators of the world. All the very best. Stay tuned for the next videos and bye for now.